We're doing this little series on Christian practice, things like why do we sing when we get together in church? But in prepping for that, I did some research on where singing comes from. Why do humans sing evolutionarily? Where did this come into the human experience? And uncovered just a ton of information about how important, particularly communal singing can be to our socialization and even to our mental health. Actually became quite concerned that we are probably doing less communal singing today, at least in modern Western cultures like Canada, than we have at any point in human history. This is a practice that, even if, like me, you're not a great singer, it's probably something we should work to recover in our practice. Whether you go to church or not, you should probably get together and sing with friends.
Before we even get into the question of why we sing at church, there's another question that's worth exploring. Why do we sing at all? Steven Pinker, who is a famous psychologist / author, once called singing auditory cheesecake. And what he meant by that is that this is a pleasurable byproduct of more important evolutionary factors. Essentially, we learned how to talk and communicate, and then after the fact, we learned we could stretch those sounds out into song. In other words, all of our vocal dexterity wasn't meant for singing, but it's a nice bonus. That hypothesis, however, is hotly debated. Charles Darwin even once argued that it's exactly the other way around, that speech may have evolved from earlier forms of mating calls. Think birds that sing to attract potential suitors. In fact, today, in the field of evolutionary psychology, they tend to assume that things were probably not as simple as Darwin imagined, but there are certainly adaptive functions in singing that suggest song may have actually been a primary form of social cohesion and collective memory in humans. We know now that dopamine and endorphins are released when the brain hears familiar rhythms. Oxytocin, which is the neurochemical that produces social phenomenon like love, that's released when people sing together. Cultural stories and narratives are often embedded in song long before writing. So song may have actually come before monologue. I mean, just think of how deeply an earworm can sink itself into your brain. Honestly, I thought we were going to avoid this one in our house. My daughter is only 5, and so she missed the height of the Frozen phenomenon. Let me tell you, though, if you have little girls at home, let it go will come for you. There is no avoiding it. All I hear every day, all summer, even the hottest day you can imagine is, do you want to build a snowman? By the way, I have tried to get her to watch Frozen 2, not because I'm particularly interested in watching that one, but at least it would be something different. Not a chance. It is Frozen 1 on repeat maybe next year, we'll see. Think about how you remember things though, right? When you have to put something in alphabetical order, you still sing the song, right? I'm not the only 47-year-old man who regularly sings A, B, C, D, E, F. Am I? Even that illustrates just how deeply song is embedded in human memory. We know infants respond more readily to song than they do to speech. We know the temporal lobe of the brain lights up when it hears songs because it instinctively grabs hold of rhythm. We know patients with neurological disorders often respond to song in ways that suggest very deep, permanent neural pathways. And that's not all, because when we sing, cortisol levels are reduced, feelings of loneliness can subside, even self-esteem levels are measurably increased when you sing. You can feel better about yourself just by singing at home alone in the shower with no audience to speak of. That's a real thing. So why do humans sing? Well, we might not be sure of its origins, but we do know there's actually a mountain of evidence to suggest we should probably do more of it. It's good for your mental health. It bonds you socially to the people near you. It lodges core ideas more deeply in your memory. And for all these reasons, I think it might actually be a problem that collectively we probably do less communal singing today than at any point in human history.